Hello everyone, I'm Thor Kleinschmidt, and today I'm going to tell you how business process modeling can help you understand and structure a customer's IT requirements. Business processes are omnipresent. Every company, every organization works along processes. That's why you inevitably come across processes when analyzing the requirements for software. And it's important to be familiar with them and know how to deal with them. Before we take a closer look at the how, let's take a look at the what. What is a business process? There is no single definition for the term business process. In my opinion, this one fits it very well. And we are all familiar with business processes or parts of them. We order something from Amazon and receive a package on our doorstep the next day. Behind this is a complex process that enables Amazon to receive our order, locate the ordered goods in a warehouse, and send them to the right address. This is precisely the sequence of value creation activities mentioned in the definition, which generates the desired output for us as customers from the input order in the form of the delivery of a product, for example, a laptop. The production of a laptop also follows this pattern. It is manufactured from pre-products such as computer chips, screens, etc., is then passed on to quality assurance and finally packaged. These examples already show important properties of processes. They have one or more defined start and end points, are directed, that is, the individual activities have a temporal logical arrangement. Packaging does not take place before production, and they can be detailed. There are therefore different levels of abstraction that can be represented in an increasing degree of detail. At the top level are the value chains, in our example, the production process. This value chain is subdivided into process areas, such as contract manufacturing. Make-to-order production contains a sequence of specialist processes, which in turn consist of several sub-processes. The first two levels have more of a regulatory organizational character. From a software development perspective, the lower two levels are of particular interest. IT supports the specific business processes and sub-processes. Where do you get information about these processes, and how do you prepare them in such a way that they are useful for requirements analysis? When you enter a company as part of an IT project, you will usually find process descriptions in a variety of forms. However, these are often incomplete or not detailed enough. So you have to search for information yourself and ask those involved in the process. You can then write down what you have heard and seen. However, a purely textual description has the disadvantage that the text often leaves a lot of room for interpretation. Graphical visualization helps to narrow down this scope for interpretation. And as we saw earlier, a process is a directed sequence of individual elements, such as activities, and these can be visualized excellently. There are very different methods that can be justified depending on the objective. In a customer workshop, for example, it can be extremely helpful to structure the process in a first step with the help of post-its. If you want to describe the process as precisely as possible in a further step so that IT requirements can be derived from it, it makes sense to use a recognized and widespread standard in order to leave little or no room for interpretation. The UML, Unified Modeling Language, is such a standard, but is not focused on process modeling. BPMN, Business Process Model, and Notation, on the other hand, does and is therefore a best practice for process modeling. BPMN has been around for a relatively long time and is a globally recognized and widely used standard, with its own ISO standard. A key feature of BPMN is that, in addition to the visualization as a diagram, it contains the flow information of the process as XML. In the Best Practice module, Process Automation with BPMN 2.0, we take a closer look at what can be done with XML. Anyone familiar with activity diagrams in UML will find their way around very quickly. There are events that can start and end a process, different types of activities and gateways as decision points in the process at which it splits into different paths depending on a decision. These elements are connected by a sequence flow. In addition, the message flow between different actors in the process can be represented. These actors are mapped in so-called pools and lanes and can be organizational units, persons or IT systems. This seems very straightforward, and therefore processes modeled with BPMN can be understood intuitively, and the notation is easy to learn. At the same time, the models can be enriched with many details that allow you to adapt the model to the previously shown levels of detail and integrate all the information required to describe IT requirements into the model. This allows you to tailor the model to the needs of different target groups, management, experts from the specialist area, or even developers. A key principle of BPMN is the so-called token flow. When a process is started, that is, a new instance is created for the production of a specific laptop. For example, a token is created. This token moves along the specified path. At an exclusive XOR gateway as a decision point, the token branches into a specific process path depending on the data, in this case, the hard disk type. At a parallel AND gateway, the token splits, because both process paths are run through simultaneously and then merges back into one token, which dissolves at the end of the process. By simulating the token flow, it is possible to find out whether the model is consistent and correct, both professionally and technically. Many modeling tools for BPMN support this simulation. Once you have modeled your customer's process, you can structure your IT requirements along the process. Note that this process-oriented view usually runs right through the customer's organization, especially at higher levels of detail. This organization is structured according to functional domains, such as purchasing, sales, and production. The process itself represents the higher level requirement, as shown here in the example. Process damage report. The individual process elements then contain the detailed requirements in the form of interfaces such as the input mask for a clerk shown here, rules for controlling the process flow, and functions such as an IT service. What has been said and shown can be summarized as follows. Ask your customer for their business processes, that is, ask for existing documentation or conduct interviews with those involved in the process to find out what they do today and how they do it. To visualize the processes, choose a standard such as BPMN, which you can use to adapt the level of detail of your process model to the respective target group, for example, the specialist side or developers. Use these processes as a guide to find out what the customer wants in the future and, above all, what they need. Identify the level of detail of the processes that can or should be supported by IT. Its requirements only exist for these steps. Structure your requirements along the processes and coordinate them with the customer. This is the only way you can be sure that the structure will ultimately fit and be accepted by the customer. But beware, even a best practice like BPMN is useless if you do not adhere to modeling rules. You can also create nonsense with BPMN. And in the next video, as already announced, we will take a look at what else is contained in a process model modeled with BPMN and how it can be used to automate a business process very easily. Until then.